What's that? And the Miami Marlins? How'd you do that? Put on baseball. Same owner. Same. Okay. And now the young lady who I remember so much like when she was a little girl and on campus and what she has meant to Florida A&M over the years. By the way, she brought some cups with her. I wanted more than one, Angela. All right. And some reading about the Florida sports economy. The cups are on the back table. Wilbur is waving it around. Be sure to get one. Wilbur, you need to get your act together. See, I gotta tell you this. I told you this story before. I know, but so many of you maybe were not there that day. When we went to play in Atlanta, and we had gotten all these great trophies to give to some very distinguished people during pregame ceremonies. And I was up in the box with the president, and I was trying to get him to go down on the field. But if you've been anywhere with Dr. Humphreys, you know he just can't go straight. People are gonna stop him every few seconds. So I told Officer Rogers, "Don't let the president be late. You know, I'm going on down on the field." I had all my plaques and stuff and went down on the field. And the bands had left the field, and Dr. Humphreys was nowhere in sight. Some very distinguished Atlantans were down on the field with me. The president and owner of the Atlanta Daily World, is it? Yeah. Very powerful and influential people, and Dr. Humphreys was nowhere in sight. So the official came over and said, "Mr. Jackson, you got 5 minutes." So he was not within 5 minutes of sight. I was just getting ready to tell them we were going to try and switch the ceremony to halftime when I saw Dr. Humphreys and Officer Rogers almost running across the field. I was quite angry at the time. So I kind of met him halfway, you know, and when Dr. Humphreys got close to me, he said, "Eddie, you better get your act together." And he didn't say act. So I was angry the whole while. Luckily, it went off very smoothly. Everything went right. But I was still mad. After the game, I rode the game in the president's car, but after the game, I got in the FAMU police chief car. And Officer Rogers pulled up alongside me with the president, got out the car, and said, the president said, "Get your act out of that car and get back in my car." So he knew he was wrong, so he was trying to placate me. I know, but all the way back to the hotel, I'm still angry. We got in the hotel, got to my floor. I started to walk off. He said, "Where are you going?" I said, "I'm going to my room." "Come on up to my room. We're having a thing up there. Have a drink." I said, "I don't drink." Excuse my language, but he said, "Well, then have a damn Coke." That was my man. I may have seemed angry then, but it's the first time I ever seemed angry around him. Because if you've seen him angry, you didn't want to be close to him. But anyway, Angie, I am so pleased that you agreed to come and speak to us and bring us up to date, and especially there's so much to know about sports in Florida. Now, as president and CEO of the FAMU Foundation, does that include all of the sports in Florida? What did I say? I can't believe all of you people at the same time heard the wrong thing. And I've reached that age where senior moments happen quite frequently, Angela. But she is the CEO and president of the Florida Sports Foundation. And it gives me great pleasure. I'm gonna get off from here while I can. It gives me great pleasure to welcome President Angela Suggs.
Thank you, Mr. Jackson. And of course, Dr. Jackson, I already saw you earlier, but definitely wanted to thank you both. And thank you to everyone that is here today. Greetings, Rattlers. As Mr. Jackson said, I'm born in FAMU's hospital. I went to FAMU High Kindergarten through 12th grade. My mom's a Savannah State grad. My dad's an Alabama State grad, but both of them spent many years, decades even, on the campus of Florida A&M. Loved Florida A&M. Wanted me to kind of go away to school. I'm an only child, as many of you know. And I said no, because of course I did dual enrollment, and I'm a Rattler. And so finished FAMU and moved to South Florida. Was with the Marriott Corporation at the time, but went there and had an opportunity, as Mr. Jackson mentioned, to be a part of Wayne Huizinga's first time renewal of the Club Seats and Suites team there at then Joe Robbie Stadium. Was there for the transition into pro player. They were the Florida Marlins at the time, and now, of course, they're the Miami Marlins. And so we've come full circle. Moved back to Tallahassee in 2003. Take care of my dad, who, you know, both he and my mom have since passed on. But with that, met a man, got married, had a baby, and I'm still here. Was so excited and honored to spend almost 10 years in the Florida A&M athletics department. We did a lot of things there. I see some invested in champion shirts in the room. I see some block logo FAMU hats. I see some A&M logo. I see, you know, many things that we were able to be a part of. And much of that got a chance to speak. Hey, Mr. James, got a chance to speak with Mr. Jackson on a regular basis as we would interact about different things that we would happen. So through many of the very fine ADs that I was able I was always here with Mr. Jackson, and all of them left behind something that we continue today. Without Thousand Strikes, I don't know that there would be an Investing in Champions. Without many of the things, without Kellen coming through, we wouldn't know the North End Zone Club as we know it today, because he gave the first permission to spread it across that North End Zone. And so with that, about now almost 6 years ago, I was, well, actually my husband was approached, and they said, what did she do again? And they told the person that I worked at FAMU, was in athletics, and they said, well, we may have an opportunity. Can't promise anything, but you know, let's see what can happen. So that was in March of 2017. In July of 2017, I got a call to have a meeting with then Governor Rick Scott to come and discuss me becoming the first person of color, first female in the 35 years of the Florida Sports Foundation president and CEO. So I accepted that in July, and now almost 6 years later, we have a phenomenal team. And so I'm going to pause and acknowledge the team members that are with us today. They're there in the middle right there. And so we have Latoya, who I can't do anything that I do without her. Bryce, who's a part of our team. Joe, who we're super excited to have, Joe Piotrowski, and I'll speak about him a little bit later. And we have OJ Hill, who many of you may know. And then Eddie Price is the newest So what you see in these books, he handles that. And so I am super honored to represent now Florida's $146 billion economic impact. That is sports in the state of Florida. And so through that, it's everything professional, recreational, amateur, leisure, everything from pickleball to the equine industry. Of course, college sports, professional sports. We have done it. Of course, coming out of 2020, where we all learned how to live life a little bit differently, the first thing to open up was outdoor sports for youth. And so we were able to bring AAU Junior Olympics into Brevard County. We are everywhere from Monroe County in the Keys, all the way up to Fernandina Beach, all the way over to Escambia. So yes, Mr. Jackson, all sports. Hey, coach, all sports here in the state of Florida. And so again, it's truly an honor. Uh, I didn't know about the Florida Sports Foundation until I was approached. But what I now know is that every specialty plate that you see on the road, so for all of my extended mothers, fathers, aunts, and uncles in the audience, when you see our vehicles that don't have a FAMU plate on the car anymore, that's because I have a NASCAR plate on most of our cars. Most of you that know my husband knows that he's a Wisconsin guy. And so at Green Bay, we couldn't put any Florida sports teams on the cars. And so we have NASCAR plates or we have Olympic plates on plate, the Olympic plate and the tennis plate. Those are our plates. And so from that, we manage those funds to the tune of about $4.5 million a year. And we pour it back into the communities where we then give that to Super Bowls, all-star games, youth tournaments, senior tournaments. In addition to that, led by OJ Hill, who's our director of amateur sports, what we also do is we produce the Florida Senior Games. So the Capital Senior Games just ended a couple of weeks ago. Well, that's a qualifier along with several others across the state for our Florida Senior Games, which is our state Olympic style format of games for people 50 years old and older. Then we also have the Sunshine State Games that also falls under what OJ does. And that's for all Floridians, 8 to 108. In terms of producing these events throughout several communities throughout our state. Additionally, we are the promotion arm for Florida's Grapefruit League. 15 Major League Baseball teams call Florida home for spring training. And so that promotion that you see of that comes through our office as well. And so we kick off spring training each year with the Governor's Baseball Dinner. Has been around since the 1940s. And so we continue to produce that event each year. Now, with this grant program, again, we pour this back into the communities. And so with that, I'll go down this road. And so we also support anything that brings out-of-state economic impact into our state of teams are in state. We give the Orange Blossom Classic a grant because, of course, you have that out-of-state economic impact with the out-of-state team. We have ESPN does a kickoff every year. You may have seen it in Atlanta or you've seen it here where University of Miami played the University of Florida. So that game did not get a grant because you have two in-state teams. Even though people are coming from out of state, we look at significant out-of-state economic impact. The state of Florida has several grant programs that go to support the economy as well as infrastructure for the state of Florida. I'm also pleased to announce that our grant program is in the top 3 each year in terms of return on investment. The average return on investment for us is $100 to 1. And so with that, and so we have a 4-to-1 where you break it down into some other detailed categories, but that's our base. And so, and that's everything from direct spend, and you'll see that in the booklet there. So everything from direct spend to heads and beds, as we call lodging, to whatever it is that you're going to do and the dollar that you're going to leave in these communities because of this particular event. without this event. And so that's what we're looking at. And that's what that report does. We produce that report every 3 to 4 years. And so again, it's going to look at all sports in the entire state of Florida. And then those are the numbers that we will use. And so if you hear someone says that Florida has $140+ billion economic impact through sports, that number came from the report that we produced. And so we do a lot of things. That's why we brought the booklet there. I am super honored to serve. Each of the professional sports franchise owners have a seat on our board. And so they have a designee. Most of them are either the general counsels for these teams or executive vice president. And CEO of the International Speedway in Daytona. So those are my bosses. And we really do great work here in the state. I am so just honored to have been selected for this position and honored to continue to serve in this position. And so I know Coach is here and I know you may have questions. And so we can open it up for any question that you may have. Dr. Walker.
I see that beautiful orange blazer.
Yes, ma'am.
And there's an F on it.
Yes, ma'am.
But I don't believe it stands for Florida Foundation.
No, ma'am.
Please tell them the significance of that blazer and that F.
Yes, ma'am. And so the National Rattler F Club, of course. Well, let me back all the way up. The reason I have on this jacket because I hung up several different options, right? Because I knew that I could not come in this room and face Dr. Leela Walker with any other color on than orange and green. So I had to go for the brightest once I hung them up, right? But I'm super honored also to have been selected in 2017, in 2018, I apologize, as a part of the National Rattler F Hall of Fame. And so I'm just glad I could fit it and button it up as well. You know, last year this time I might not have been able to button this up. And so with that, yes. And so I'm truly honored to have been a part of that class. Yes, ma'am. So we can't give money to regularly scheduled games. And so if it's a part of no, not no. So not for homecoming, but there is support in this community. Joe is a newer member of our team, not as new as Eddie, and he's probably about to turn as red as that shirt when I say what I'm about to say. But we were able to pull Joe over from Visit Tallahassee. He headed up the Tallahassee Sports Council. And so one of the things that we can speak about is, and so let me throw some myths out there. Florida State gets more than FAMU. Percentage-wise, that's not really the case, right? FAMU there's a FAMU hotel rate, and they're doing us wrong because they're price gouging us. That's a myth. And let me tell you why. Because our cousins, sisters, husbands, wives, they need to be employed in the summer. They need to be employed on non-graduation weekends. They need to be employed on non-homecoming weekends. They need to be employed every day that the world is not coming to Tallahassee, right? And in order to do that, the for-profit hotel company has to spread out their revenues in terms of a revenue strategy. Florida State plays in town maybe 7 weekends. And those rates are pretty much the same on those weekends as they are on our one homecoming weekend. So those hotels, and when we're in Miami or when we're in Huntsville or in Baton Rouge or when we're on the road and Florida State is here alone, those rates are still $300 a night, $500 a night. When Florida comes to town, the Saturday after Thanksgiving, those rates are the same $500 and $600 that they are for FAMU's homecoming weekend. And that is so, I mean, many of you have run businesses here. You know, you got a downtime and you have an uptime, and you know supply and demand. And so when we take a look at that, and it's just something to take into consideration, right? It's just really just something to take into consideration. It may not be fair and it may hurt. You know, we live here, so we don't feel it like our friends feel it when they have to come to town, or those friends that are watching on the YouTube recording. But Tallahassee, we are one of maybe 3 markets of our type. Not just the same town. We have 2 Division I football programs in the same mall. And so that being said, the only other cities like ours that show that as well are Baton Rouge. We're not going to count Atlanta because that's a metro area, right? But you have Baton Rouge that has that. We can count Nashville. Nashville has that as well. But we're not going to count Houston. We're not going to count Atlanta, right? But these markets, and so that makes it difficult. It makes it tight, right? And so the way that we can help that is not by, just pushing the myth. The way that we can help that is have your family reunion here in July. Have your golf trip here in June. Find reasons to bring your family members to Tallahassee. Oh, well, the air flights are too high. The plane tickets are too high. Have you ever flown to Tuscaloosa? Because if you did, you have a private jet. Otherwise, you flew to Birmingham and you drove to Tuscaloosa. Have you ever flown to Auburn? Flew to Atlanta and you drove to Auburn. Or you flew to Birmingham and went down and up, or Montgomery and came back the other way. And you all know it's 80,000 people there every time they open the gates to those stadiums. And so what we've seen over the past 6 years, we've seen back-to-back Super Bowls, Super Bowl 54, Super Bowl 55. So we had Miami and Tampa back-to-back. No other state other than California and Texas can do that. We can do it 3 times, actually. We put boats back in the water in Jacksonville, but Mr. Khan is working on that. And so with that, those are the kinds of things when we speak about economic impact. And when we sit at our board meetings and we look at what we have going on, 2026 is a really big year for us, for the state of Florida. We have the College Football National Championship coming back to Miami. We have FIFA World Cup. That is bigger than Super Bowl. So the world will come to the great state of Florida in 2026. We're looking to host base camps for the 2028 Olympics. And so that means that international teams will come and set up and get acclimated to a climate similar to California here. And so Joe and Lisa Abili, who's in our Orlando office, they head that up for us. And we travel the world. Lisa just came back from London. We were in Scotland in the fall. We'll go back to London in June. We'll go to Monaco in October. And we are selling the great state of Florida for these events that we have. And so with that being said, are there My desk is here in Tallahassee. Yes, sir. And we have an office also in Orlando. And then we work with 38 sports commissions throughout the state. And so they are the boots on the ground for forward facing, right? So there's a Miami-Dade Sports Commission that works for our events that we have in Miami. Of course, there's Tampa, Tallahassee, as we mentioned, but we have 38 of those. Some of them are regional. So like the Greater Orlando Sports Commission covers much of the I-4 corridor all the way over to Daytona, and then butting up to Polk County where they have their own sports commission, and then Tampa, handles that. And so all across the state, from Pensacola on down to Miami-Dade, we work with them. But I have a desk here. My home is here in Tallahassee. Yes, sir. Yes. Understood. So what we don't do, the question is, are any of the organizations that we are affiliated with, can they assist in bringing the aquatics program back to FAMU? And so it's going to start with the department, right? In terms of bringing a swim team or any team to the department, VP Sykes and the rest of the team in the university and the NCAA 5, as we call them, the AD, the president, SWA, the compliance person, all of them will get together and they will decide what teams they want to add. I mean, we are a Division I program, and as VP Sykes has mentioned to you all before, we're at 14 programs, and that's the NCAA minimum. I say we because I always be a rattler. So yes, that's so. We don't do facilities as a part of what we do, so we don't build anything. But once it's built, we will help to program it. Now, the pool, once that happens, or even if I were to move away from swimming and just talk about what Joe has done when he was with Tallahassee Sports Council, is he would sell Tallahassee for sports. He now sells the entire state. And so with that, FAMU's resources, so the Lawson Center, the track, Gaither, are all resources for Tallahassee in terms of bringing events, wherein in 2026, the Appalachian Regional Park will be host to the World Cross Country Championships. And Joe was a part of that team to go over and recruit that event to come to Tallahassee. And so I know I really didn't answer your question, other than the fact that it definitely would start with the university administration. Yes, sir.
Just a comment. The Suggs family, I want you guys to know that I'm going to talk about your husband a little bit. Devin, I probably would have been maybe in jail today, but that young man stepped in when we were building the store in the center over in Quincy. And I don't know where he found all that money from, but we was about to go bankrupt. And he walked in like Santa Claus and he helped us out. So I know the Suggs family know how to raise money and get money. So I thank you. You tell him I thank him for what he does.
Absolutely, absolutely. Yes, he's a good guy. We like him. We like him. And so, are there any other questions? Yes, sir.
Are you saying there's a naming convention issue that causes families to lose money? In other words, you said the family homecoming game is a regular game, so no out of state fund comes in, or are you saying that if they name that differently?
No regularly scheduled game. And so the Orange Blossom Classic, the difference between the Orange Blossom Classic and homecoming is that it's not on either home field. It's a neutral site game, which puts it there. Also, while the Florida Classic is a regularly scheduled game, it's also at a neutral site. So that's what makes it not a regularly scheduled game. But the Orange Blossom Classic and the Florida Classic are two different setups. Yes, sir.
So when the football team wins the regular season East SWAC championship and the SWAC championship game comes here, you can assist with that?
We can. Joe.
Just elaborate.
Let me bring you a microphone.
You should come up so we can see.
Come on up, Joe. Let the people know who said it.
I didn't know this was being filmed. I thought this was a safe spot. So, no, but to that point, so as far as homecoming's considered, the organization Florida A&M can work with your local sports commission. So visit Tallahassee Sports Council. So Florida A&M has 2 delegates that sit on the Tallahassee Sports Council as it is, one that represents athletics department and one that actually represents campus recreation. So there's a lot of opportunity there as far as like a pool or a system like that goes. Whereas if the Tallahassee Sports Council gets access to the facilities where they can bring in events, then that's a revenue generation and revenue stream for athletics or for campus recreation. So we've always constantly worked back and forth. Different administrations allowed more than others, things like that. But there's always that opportunity for revenue streams for the university through sports tourism. You would just have to work directly with them specifically. And then just the last point about if we do have the playoffs, I know we actually, right before I came over, I worked on part of the bid to try to get the playoff game here because I started in January. And so the local sports commission is where you always want to start with that, because then they work through us in order to get statewide funding that supports that. But your local Visit Tallahassee Sports Council would be the one to go through there. So, and obviously we'd be happy to get any contacts that you all may need. So.
Thanks, Joe. So we have any other questions? Yes, sir.
What direct funding do you get from the legislature, or is it all based on your generated?
Repeat his question.
Where does our funding come from? And so we have right now being heard in the Senate and the House, and we have the same amount in the Senate that we have in the House. And so it's a little over $6 million. And so we have $4.6 million that is 100% generated from our specialty plates. When we exceed that amount, the rest of it goes into a trust. And so in addition to that, we have another $1.7 million that we have that comes in through our other 3 plates. So the Olympic plate, the NASCAR plate, and the tennis plate, along with an allocation for our Florida senior games of $500,000 and another $200,000 for our Sunshine State games. And so that's kind of, and so the non-specialty plate revenue really goes to promote healthy living, active participation in sports.
There's a question from online that says, if you could ask her if the state of Florida has ever considered collectively hosting the Summer Olympics.
So here's the answer to that. The Summer Olympics is held when? What season do Floridians experience from June to November? Hurricane season. And so it's difficult to evacuate the world when the hurricane gives you a couple of hours and you don't know if it's going this way or that way or the other way. And so that's why we've not actively gone after a bid, because when you actively go after these bids, you want to over deliver on your promise, right? And while we can't handle weather, we do football seasons, but you can't reschedule the Olympics, right? And so that's why we are working with, the team is really creatively working with the USOPC, the United States Olympic and Paralympic Committee, as well as the International Olympic Committee, in looking at base camps for these different teams that would be coming over. And so Florida will still get some of the business because we'll have those teams that will stay with us for what, Joe, months, like 3 to 6 months. And some of them maybe even a year. And so that's where we are. Okay. All righty. Well, Mr. Jackson, thank you so much. And thank you to all of you. I really enjoyed it.
Thank you, Angela. You did it right. Angela, I have a question.
Yes, sir.
Although coach is some of this originally from Florida. He came here from out of state. So, so can we? Yeah, can you get some more? Uh, I guess not, Coach. uh, Ladies and gentlemen, it gives me great pleasure, as always, to introduce the head coach of the Florida A&M University Rattlers, Coach Willie Simmons.
Thank you, Ed. And I appreciate the ask. That was a good one. I appreciate it. And now Roy knows he's my guy. I mean, Roy is my number one guy. But why are you gonna get arrested for opening a business in Gadsden County? What was that? I caught that now. I don't know what Suggs had to do to get that going, but we don't do bad business in Gadsden County. Again, always a pleasure to be here, and so great to see Angela and all the great work that she continues to do and to support FAMU. Of course, you know Dr. Walker, so she probably wanted to get you about the black dress, but she's talking jacket, so she's a little bit. So we appreciate that. But obviously glad to see everyone. Obviously, weren't able to meet last week, because of the function going on here. So I know we want a spring game recap. So of course, everyone who was able to show up for the game, we definitely appreciate it. We happen to have the spring game on the hottest day of the spring, and so I apologize about that. But for everyone who was able to endure the heat, I appreciate it. Y'all notice I came out of that blazer about halftime. I had enough. And I'm gonna sacrifice fashion for falling out. So, but had a lot of fun, and it was a spirited game. The pregame speeches, I will say, left a lot to be desired this year. So Coach, we're gonna have to give them a little tutorial on how to be quick. I'm long-winded. They know. Even I was like, come on now, we got to hit the field here in a minute. I mean, they went there for 45 minutes to give them the pregame speech. So gotta get the guys ready to roll. But now it was a fun day, and the guys competed hard, and defense obviously was able to have a great showing. I think there's only one touchdown scored during regulation. Obviously, we went to an overtime there at the end, and there were a couple of scores. But our defense played extremely well, and some guys had some really great individual efforts. I thought Junior played a really solid game at quarterback. Obviously, I think for the first time, everybody saw what Jaquez Yant is capable of, bringing to the table as a big athletic running back. I thought the running backs played well, the entire day. And so, obviously, whenever you split teams up, it's hard to build some camaraderie and, consistency. So offense wasn't quite as fluid as maybe, we had been throughout the spring because, again, you're mixing up offensive lines and quarterbacks are throwing to, guys they maybe haven't thrown to as much during the spring. But again, it was an entertaining game, great atmosphere, and really made us excited about this coming season. And so definitely want to congratulate the green team for a hard-fought game. Orange team gave it away, had a chance to win it. Here, Coach. Now, her speech was a lot more impactful. He didn't show up today. That's probably why he knew we were going to talk about him. I don't know what he was in there talking about. Uh-huh. They did. That's a snapshot, a snippet of what the pregame speech was like. So, but no, I thought the green they did a really good job, and the orange team had a chance to win it there at the end. Should have kicked the field goal, and as a commissioner, I can be critical now. So it feels good to not have to stand up and ask questions about the decisions of either team because I didn't coach either one of them. So I sat there. I was a 220 member that day and talked a lot about some bad calls, some questionable substitutions. But I know it was a fun day. But we're relatively healthy. We've had a few guys who just had some recent operations, but we feel really good that they'll all be back by the time we get through the summer, right? And so when we report in early August, we feel like we'll be 100% healthy, And we're really excited about this coming season. This is and I've said it, for a while now, but this is by far the deepest team that we've fielded here. There's not a position that I can think off the top of my head that's not at least 3 deep. And so just having the quality depth to be able to go out and practice and go good on good. And that's what makes us better. Every day going out and competing against the best, it makes you raise your level of play. So we're excited about our depth. We're excited about our team speed. And then with the strength conditioning program, with Coach Forney and what they're doing, we're excited about the strength gains that we've made. And so we've always been a fast team, but this year we will be. And for those of you who've gotten close enough to the guys, how big we are. We're a really, really big football team as well. So that's usually a good recipe. When you're big and fast, that usually bodes well. So we're excited about the group, and I'm currently conducting my exit interviews all week from Monday through Friday. I meet with every single football player, and we talk about grades first, obviously, and then we go on to what the expectations are for the summer. And then them coming back this fall. So encouraged about the guys. A lot of, the attitudes are great. And I feel really good that this will, hopefully, if things continue at the level they're going, our best semester academically as well. The guys seem to be doing really well. And so excited about that. And, obviously, again, looking forward to continuing to interact. Again, they'll take off next week. Finals are starting up next week. And so they'll be here for about another week or so. And they'll take off for a couple of weeks, and then they're scheduled to be back March 15th to start their off season. I'm sorry, May 15th. May 15th to start their summer conditioning program. And so we anticipate the bulk of the guys being here this summer, which is great. It allows them to continue to get more credit in the classroom, but also gives them a chance to condition and gives us a chance as coaches to continue to be with them and meet with them with the new legislature that the NCAA started to allow a couple of years ago that allows coaches to be able to spend at least 8 hours a week with meetings, which is critical for those guys over those summer months. And so appreciate everyone who is invested to make sure that we're able to have summer school, because that's a huge part of running a successful program, is to be able to have guys here basically all year long. The old days of going home for the summer and going back to work on the farm, you can't do that in today's game and expect to be ready to play that first week. There's no more 3-a-days, so again, you can't whip them back into shape by practicing them 3 times a day, or even 2-a-days like it was when I played. And so for those of you who had 3-a-days, I don't even know what that's like. I know that I've heard of it. I'm not that old to have 3-a-days, but I did do 2-a-days. And so I was actually the last class to be able to have consecutive 2-a-days. So that shows you kind of how times have changed. My last year of college in 2003 was the last time that you can have 2-a-days in back-to-back days. And then about 6 or 7 years ago, they did away with 2-a-days altogether. So now you can't practice twice in a day. You can practice and then come back and walk through, but you can't have 2 practices in the same day. And so now we only get 25 practices in 29 days to be ready to play football in the first game. And of course, we know the first game this year, just like the last 2 years, will be down in Miami Gardens in the Orange Blossom Classic against Jackson, which is a conference game. And so it's critical that our guys are here all summer getting ready so that when we hit the field in early August, we're way ahead of where some teams are who don't have their guys there all summer, right? And so that's why summer is so critical as far as our overall development. But that's what we are with everything. And coaches will hit the road recruiting here in the next couple of weeks, and we'll comb the entire state of Florida, looking for the best and the brightest that the state has to offer. And then we'll, start our camp circuits here this summer as well. So excited about it, and definitely want to open the floor for questions, about the game or moving forward. Yes, sir. Well, the transfer portal opened up, matter of fact, the day of the spring game. So April 15th, and it closes the end of this month. So guys have about another 5 or so days to enter the portal in order to take advantage of the one-time exception. And so we have been contacted by some individuals. We've contacted some individuals in the portal, and we'll probably look to add 2 or 3 more guys to the fold through the portal. Yeah.
The NCAA rule change about stopping the clock
Mhm.
after the first down. How do you see that changing your offense?
Well, so if you don't know, and the question you asked about the new rule change, so for I don't know 50 plus years, the college game different from the NFL game in the aspect that after a first down in college, the clock stops to allow the chain crew a chance to reset the chains, and then they'll start the clock again. Well, in the NFL, the clock never stops on the first down, other than 2 minutes of a half. And so the concern that the NCAA has had for the last few years is that games are getting longer, right? And so for us as coaches and players, we don't mind. We're playing football. But for those of you that are sitting in the sun for 4 hours, you want to get out of there, right? And so they've really worked hard to try to speed the game up. They really want all competitions to be under 3 hours. And I think the last data was the games were about 3 hours and 8 minutes or so on average. And to figure out, right? Well, these games long. Well, TV timeouts, right? So you get 4 first quarter, 3 second quarter, 4 third quarter. So you get about 14 TV breaks a game. Okay. Imagine how many votes they got to cut the TV breaks out. 0. That's who pays the bills, right? So you're never going to see them cut out TV commercials. They may add some, matter of fact, but they're not going to do that, right? And so the other thing is the clock stop. Well, challenges. Well, what coach wants to do away with challenges? Well, we don't. So challenges out the window. Well, then the other thing they looked at was clock stoppages. How often does the clock stop? And so they looked at the NFL game and said, well, NFL games are shorter, so they passed that law, that rule this year, and they figure on average it will take about 6 plays away from a game, right? And so for the teams try to play fast with tempo, get upwards to 80 plus plays a game, you're looking at probably in the high 70s. For us last year, I think we have about 75. So that number may cut down 70. Right. So I don't know if the range changes how we approach the game. But again, it'll be an adjustment for all of us. And we'll see after the first few weeks if there's a distinct difference in how we approach the game. But for us, I don't really think so. Like crowd today, 2 questions. Well, spring game must have been.
I'm not going to call any names, but you probably know what I'm talking about.
So you want me to call the name?
No, I don't want you to call the name. I just want you to know what I'm talking about to answer the question, because it has to do with classroom. I'm concerned about a tall defensive back that held Southern's top receiver.
Oh, one of ours. Yeah.
You know what I'm talking
Well, so we had, I think, 5. The question was about a player's eligibility, basically. Without going into details specifically, we do have 5 players who we held this spring that once they take care of their business in the classroom, then they'll be allowed to return. The last check we did, which was Monday, all 5 seem to be in really, really good shape, right? So now we do have another week and a half of school left, and so you got to get across the finish line, right? We got finals coming up, we got papers due, and all those type things. And so, but again, we're optimistic that those gentlemen will do what they need to do in the classroom, and if they do, we feel really good about really all of them contributing in a major way. Obviously, God forbid something happens where they don't, then that's one of the luxuries of the transfer portal. You're able to kind of replace those with older guys, because there are a ton of young men now that are in the portal that are, looking for homes. That's a good thing and a bad thing, because obviously there are not enough homes for all of them. And so that is one of the concerns that we have as coaches with the transfer portal, that, it's kind of taking it out of our hands as coaches. You can kind of just enter the portal whenever you want to. And a lot of them enter it without knowing where the next home will be. And so if there are no spots available for you, then what? Now you're just kind of out in the cold. So, but it does give us a chance to fill some immediate needs in the event that someone either leaves now. Again, I'm meeting with guys now, so I got another 2 or 3 days. I may have 1 or 2 come in and tell me they're going to enter the portal. And if that's the case, then obviously we can replace that with an older guy. But again, we feel good about the direction we're headed in academically. The NCAA is actually on campus today. They were there all day yesterday. They're there today. And we've had some really quality meetings with them about our plan moving forward. And so feel good about the direction the department is headed in, specifically football when it comes to academics. Any other last minute questions about anything? All right. Oh. Well, the replacement for Xavier is really hard to replace 87 catches with one person, right? And so now if somebody steps up and they can do that, then absolutely, that's great. But we're more than likely going to be receiver by committee this year. You know, and it's ironic. Jeremy and I had our meeting today, and we talked about that very thing. Whereas last year, you know, we moved Xavier around so much because we wanted him to be the first option on most of our pass concepts. Well, now we don't really have the luxury to do that because we don't feel like we have a guy who maybe is quite as dynamic as Xavier. So one game it may be David Manigo, right, who plays the X position. The next week it may be K-Dot, who plays in the slot. The week after that it may be Dede Oxendine or one of those guys that plays out to the field. And now it's going to really depend on how the defense plays us, where they're vulnerable and where they're giving us, you know, openings. So it's more for Jeremy to see what the defense is doing and throw the ball to the appropriate guy. But I think there's benefit in that too, because last year you go into games saying stop 19. Let's find what 19 is and let's double him, spin the coverage to him. But this year you won't really know who that guy might be. So, but I think we have quality players. I'm really excited about the receiver core. It's just, again, we don't really have a alpha male right now who we say can go out there and catch 10 balls a game. Right.
Got a question from social media. It says, ask coach if they're looking for some height at the wide receiver position in the portal.
Eddie asked that. You type that question right quick, Eddie. So short answer, yes, but we're looking for the best receivers we can find. It's, you know, obviously when you build a team, you try to build it with a lot of parts that kind of fit the pieces of the puzzle together. And so you want some speed, you want some size, right? You want because again, you can't have a bunch of Xavier Smiths running around because Xavier Smith don't want to block for Xavier Smith, right? You want to have a bigger guy blocking for Xavier Smith. And so we do want to get some length on the perimeter, but we do have long tight ends. So we're able to utilize our tight ends to be able to block on the perimeter, which allows us to go out and find fast receivers. The number one attribute we look for in a receiver is the ability to run, right? And be dynamic with the football, okay? When we want length, we can find longer tight end bodies to be able to do the things we need to do on the perimeter. So if I had my pick, I would go speed first. And then once you get enough speed, now you start to kind of look for some size. So we have some bigger receivers. We just, right now, they're either injured or weren't able to play last year. So we do have some guys that are over 6 feet that can do some things. They don't all look like Eddie Jackson. And so we'll be so K-Dot probably, you know, everybody, K-Dot's not a big guy, but you know, Manigo's 6'3", Trey Davis is 6'2", Nick Dixon 6'2", Marquez Phillips is 6'1". You know, we do have some longer length guys, and that tight end Jeremiah 6'6", Kamara 6'3", Jeremy Kobe Gross is 6'3". So we have some length. It's just that the guys that we've seen the last few years have been Xavier Smith and K-Dot, who just happen to be 5'10" and 5'7". So, but yeah, we'll have a good combination of size across the board. That's a good question. Brenda, you sleep over there? You better ask a question before I get out of here. We ain't got time for you to think of a question, brother. We got to go. Well, again, definitely want to give a huge shout out to Miss Angie here, and look forward to seeing her down in Miami. That was a good question too, asking why does she live in Tallahassee? Because we'll never see her in Tallahassee. It's always Orlando or Miami or somewhere. Wherever the party is, that's where Angie is. So we definitely appreciate all her hard work and commitment. And just go ahead and tell them the plan for, I think it's December. What's the SWAC championship date, Vaughn? No, that's Celebration Bowl. Playing for that, well, you can't do much about that. That's in Georgia. So unfortunately. Yeah, well, that'll be. I don't know if John Grant gonna like that too much. December 2nd. So pull on your calendar December 2nd. Be planning for a SWAC championship hosted here in Tallahassee. And so I heard we get some funding. So like that word, funding. So, but good. Appreciate you guys as always. And when Eddie makes the call, I'll be back. So go Rattlers.
Thank you, Coach. Our last item for today is should have been our first item of the day, Selvin. I keep forgetting. President of our boosters, Mr. Selvin Carr.
Thank you, Mr. Jackson. Eddie, we're going to do a little something different today. Is that I have 2 new board members that's with us. They're normally here, but they've been newly elected board members, and that's one is Dr. Leela Walker, and the other one is, there she is. And of course, the other one is board member Johnny Hankerson. Well, Johnny has accepted the challenge to be a board member because he has a special presentation that he wants to make to the 220 audience. And Johnny, if you'd come up. Missing. Oh, Zach, I didn't see you. Of course, Zach Ansley.
I am Johnny Hankerson, and I wanted to work hard for the FAMU boosters. So I went out a week or so ago, and I'm going to present 6 regular members, 2 subscribing members, and 1 member online, a total of 9 new booster members. And I know that FAMU is the highest of 7 hills, but our giving has been down in the valley. So we got to do more and get out and recruit more people to give more so we can keep coaches like Coach Simmons and and all of the coaches that's with our athletics, men and women. So please give, go out, all members go out and seek. All you got to do is ask members to join. Some gonna say no, but you don't stop there. You just keep on asking. All right, thank you.
Thanks, Johnny.
And I got several more coming. I just didn't pick it up the money this week.
Okay, thank you. As we always said, the doors of the Rattler Boosters are always open. FAMU, rattlerboosters.com. That's our website. As he stated, let's each one go out and recruit one, and we could eventually get where we need to be as far as funding for our athletics. We have some major challenges ahead of us. Ed and I have been talking. Nutrition. Nutrition is going to be big for us. As your coach just talked about, athletes getting faster, stronger. Well, it takes nutrition is a big part of that. We're going to improve our nutrition giving this year, Ed and I. And I have a goal of at least 25,000. If Eddie matched that 25,000, we have $50,000 that we can use for just nutrition. And that's very important. So Eddie, I hope you accept that challenge. So coach, you heard the challenge that Eddie accepted, $50,000. Eddie? What, a piece of cake was what you said.
Well, I think we need to explain something. Sam, when you're talking about, explain when you say nutrition, you're talking about.
The nutrition that in the field house, and that we have for athletics. The peanut butter jelly sandwiches, the bananas, the apples, the Nutri-Grain bars, and those type things.
Well, if that's what you're going to do, I'll provide some steaks instead.
All right. You know, that's one thing about Eddie. I don't care what you do, he's going to go one up here. Okay, many of you have talked about, you all like these highlights that I give each week. I've been getting a lot of response from it. So this week, we'll start out with our women's tennis. Last time we were up, we told you that they were the regular season champs, but you don't get anything for regular season champs. You have to win the tournament to get to the NCAA. Well, our women's tennis team are SWAC champions. Not only, next up, of course, would be the NCAA regionals, which is going to be held May 4th, and that location is yet to be determined. Not only did we win the championship, but we had several superlative players. Like the MVP for the conference this year was Reagan Harris. Also, Coach Nikki Houston won the SWAC Women's Tennis Coach of the Year. So hopefully she has a clause in her contract so she'll get a bonus. Okay, Coach Nikki. We had 3 players to make the all-tournament team: Sierra Sandy, Rebecca Gaines, and Reagan Harris. Our women's softball team kind of fell on a little hard times last week. We dropped from 2nd place to 4th place. We went 1-4. Our overall record in the conference is 11-9, and we're in 4th place. We got games coming up on tomorrow. We got a makeup game with Alabama A&M, and then on Friday, Saturday, and Sunday, we're going to Jackson, Mississippi. So hopefully we can get back on track and get back in the hunt for the softball championship. The women track team, which is kind of an unknown jewel, because we don't have any track meets here, so we don't really see the track perform. But last week that the 4x100 team went to Atlanta at Georgia Tech, and they won 1st place. And those women were Shania Berry, Zoe Hightower, Lauren Hall, and Talita Williams. They set the performance set time was 45.4. Also, Talita Williams placed 3rd in the 400 meters with a 54.4 time. Next up, they're going to Jacksonville for the East Coast Relays. And that's going to be this weekend. The men as well did not as well as the women track team did, but the top performers were DeJohn Clark. He had a 7.16 meters in the long jump. Peter Salisman has 6.86 meters in the long jump, and DeJohn Clark had a 10.56 in the 100 meters. Robert Hampton was also in the 100 meters with a 10.75 timing. Next up, day 2 will be in Jacksonville for the East Coast relays. Our baseball team, currently, we're tied for Alabama State for 1st place with a 15-3 mark. We bought the brooms out and Moore Kittle Field, and we swept Mississippi Valley. Joseph Perini was named the SWAC Player of the Week. for hitting on the 17th of April. And then we came back this past week, and Sebastian Greco was named the player of the week for the week of the 24th. Next up, the two teams that's tied for first place will be playing each other in Montgomery, Alabama. So both of them are going in with a 15-3 mark. It's kind of like if you can sweep on the road, that's wonderful. If you could just go 2-1, that's also good. But what you want to avoid is being swept on the road. So hopefully we're going in looking for 3. We'll settle for 2, but we got to have 1. So that's our baseball team. We're going to end up with golf. Our golf team finished second place in the SWAC tournament. Jacob, when I see this name, I always have a hard time pronouncing it. And I'll just spell it, Uyssato. You guys are better with your pronunciation than I am. But anyway, Jacob made the first SWAC, he's the first team for SWAC golf last year. This past season. And we had Cannon, who also made the SWAC second team. So those are our highlights for our Olympic sports. And I thank you for all that you do for our student athletes. I'll turn it back over to Mr. Jackson.
Coach Simmons has an important announcement.
I just want to let everyone know that tomorrow is the NFL draft. And so obviously we got a few young men who are hoping to hear their names called. So get in your prayer closets. Right now, Isaiah Land has had a lot of visits with NFL teams. So is Xavier Smith. And that's a good sign because obviously to get drafted, you have to have those visits. And but they're both right now projected to be guys that have a great shot. So Isaiah right now has a grade as high as possibly the 4th round. And Xavier Smith is, around the later 6th or 7th round, but really excited about those guys. Isaiah's hosting a draft party up in Atlanta. But again, keep your fingers crossed, and hopefully we can have my first player drafted since 2013. And if we can get 2, that would be even better. So first round tomorrow, second and third round on Friday, and then they'll close off rounds 4 through 7 on Sunday. I'm sorry, on Saturday. So keep your prayers up for Xavier and Isaiah and those other guys, and hopefully we can continue to be represented with Marquise Bell in the National Football League. Thank you.
Before we go, I want to say a quick word about Johnny. Johnny puts his money where his mouth is, as they say. And we need to thank Johnny for his contribution. He didn't go to FAMU. FAMU was tough to get in. John, I must still need your contribution, John. I didn't know you that terrible. I talk too much. John, are you a commissioner? I didn't know that. But he's contributed to everything we do, and not at a very low level. He was a very successful private industry person with major corporation, and now he's here. And we got to keep Johnny happy because he keeps the money coming. Quick word about Selman. Y'all know I've been around FAMU longer than most of you, maybe all of you. But I've never seen the boosters make the kind of contributions they've made that they're making now on the 7. When the track team was here last week, was that last week? Well, 2 weeks ago, she said she told 7 she needed $250 for just nutrition. That's what I said, tennis. I mean, I started not to come back up here, but they needed $250 for nutrition before they went to the tournament. And 7 gave him $1,000. Am I right, sir? Yeah. Well, I heard you say we're gonna give you $1,000. And I know it's coming from the boosters. But I'm looking at little $1,000, but money that they're given to the billion equipment. Some of that things like the boosters go, great leadership. We got to do what we can to keep Selvin in charge of that program as well. Let's give Selvin and John a round of applause. Ladies and gentlemen, same time, same place next week. Hold on, Jerry says that's what. A freshman. Were you there? Huh? Were you there? John.